Hey guys, the Comics Kid 2099 here, and as I have done a Batman related video review for all of my other videos this week, I'm going to close out my main videos for the week with another Batman review. Today, I'm going to be reviewing an animated movie, Batman Gotham Knight. This was advertised as being sort of an in-betweenquel between Batman Begins and The Dark Knight. I remember thinking that that was what was going on, and obviously I wasn't the only one who thought that, because this movie, even now, I don't think I've watched this movie since I got it. I bought it, and I know I watched it twice when I bought it. I watched it once, and then I watched it again with commentary, and I'm pretty sure I haven't seen it since then. This is the first time in like 7 years, 6 or 7 years, that I've seen this movie. And I remember it came out shortly before The Dark Knight hit theaters, or actually it might have even been after Dark Knight had already been in theaters. And there's several different clues that this is kind of supposed to be set in that world. For example, we get to see Crispus Allen in this comic, or in this movie, which I talked about him being in the Gotham show earlier this week, and Crispus Allen is here, but instead of Renee Montoya, his usual partner, we have Ramirez, who was a character in the Dark Knight movie, and she's here because this is supposed to be set in between Batman Begins and The Dark Knight. And then you've got other things. They mention the event in the Narrows that happened in Batman Begins, and also Scarecrow is here. They mention the incident where all of the inmates tried to escape from Arkham Asylum in Batman Begins. They mention a few things like that, and so it's very clear that this is supposed to be set in that world. And that is really my single biggest problem with this movie, is that it's trying to be that, but at the same time, it's not. In the commentary, I mentioned that I listened to the commentary on this a long time ago. You even have conflicting reports of whether or not this is supposed to be set in that world. Bruce Timm said that it is, but in the exact same commentary, Denny O'Neil said that he didn't think of it as being set in that world. It's really not good when you have two people who worked on a movie and they both have conflicting ideas about not even themes of the movie. I could very easily understand something like that if you have a movie and, say, the screenwriter thinks that the movie is about X, Y, and Z, but then the director thinks that it's about something entirely different. I could totally buy that, because stories quite often are up to interpretation to a certain degree, and so I could very easily see that happening. But it's really not good when you have two people who worked on the story and they disagree about fundamental basics like, does this movie take place in between these two other movies? And if you have one guy who says, no it doesn't, and then you have another guy who says, yeah it does, that's going to lead to some problems with the movie. As my mom would say, there's too many cooks in the kitchen, which means that you've got too many people trying to put their own artistic vision into this thing, and it's going to make this thing not really work because there's too many artistic visions competing with each other, if you know what I mean. But getting past that, the fact that this is allegedly set in that world, and sometimes it really feels like it is, and sometimes it really doesn't. Most of the time it really doesn't. Getting past that, I thought I could maybe watch this on its own merits, because that was kind of a problem that I had with this, that it was trying to be set in the world of Batman Begins, and at the time I watched this, I hadn't even seen The Dark Knight yet, but it was trying to be set in that world, and it was sort of doing that, but it wasn't really. I thought maybe I could get past that this time, since it's been so long since I saw it, but even now, it's really hard for me to get past the fact that this movie is trying to be set in that world, especially when it doesn't really work as being set in that world most of the time. For example, just some basic things. Kevin Conroy does the voice of Batman here. Now, I like Kevin Conroy as Batman. I've almost always liked him as Batman. This was one of the earliest of the DC animated movies after Superman Doomsday, where they were each set in their own little world and they weren't connected to the DC animated universe. And at that time, at first, they were kind of trying to cast different actors in each movie. They didn't want to just keep going to the well and getting the same people that they always used in the DC animated universe. So that's why in the DC New Frontier movie, you've got, or actually I think it's called Justice League New Frontier, you've got a different guy doing the voice of Batman. It's not Kevin Conroy. And then you've got in Batman Year One, which came much later than this, you've got Ben McKenzie doing the voice of Batman. But then here, this is like maybe the third movie. It was like Superman Doomsday. I don't remember what the next one was, and then it was this one. I'm pretty sure this was very early in that line of movies, and they've already gone back to Kevin Conroy. And if this is supposed to be set in the world of Batman Begins and The Dark Knight, I kind of wish that they could have gotten someone who sounds like Christian Bale. I understand that Christian Bale isn't going to want to come and do an animated movie. He might think that that's beneath him. I don't necessarily agree with that sentiment, but he might think that that's beneath him. But then, if you are going to allegedly have this be set in that world, get an actor who at least kind of sounds like Christian Bale. And Christian Bale, when he's talking normal, his voice is about 8 octaves higher than Kevin Conroy's. Kevin Conroy always sounds like he's got a deeper voice, even when he's Bruce Wayne, and it just goes to shatter the illusion a little bit that this is supposed to be the same Batman. Getting past that, this is 6 short stories. I think it's 6 short anime style stories, and each short is done in an entirely different style. And if I had to say that there's one really great thing about this, it's that it looks really astounding. Like, almost every short here just looks really incredible. Some of them look better than others. I would say my least favorite one is it's not I Work Through Pain, it's the one before that, the one where he fights Scarecrow. I would say that's my least favorite one, just because characters like Crispus Allen and Ramirez, they look entirely different than they did earlier in the movie, like to the point where Crispus Allen looks like an entirely different character. He doesn't even look like the same character. But I would say that's not my least favorite short. My least favorite short is, without a doubt, the very first one, the Have I Got a Story for You? And part of my problem is this story has been done before. And I think they mentioned in the commentary that it was done once in a comic book, and then it was done once in Batman the Animated Series, or rather, The New Adventures of Batman and Robin, and then they did it here. And the story is, you've got 3 kids, and actually you've got 4 kids, but 3 of them, they each saw Batman at different points in the day, and then they're all coming back and they're telling the 4th kid about their stories of how they saw Batman. And this story just, for one, it's the least connected to all of the others. It really doesn't have anything to do with the rest of them. In the next short, we see the guy that Batman was fighting in the first short, and he's brought him over to the police to bring him back to Arkham. But honestly, you could almost just pretend that that guy that they're bringing to Arkham is an entirely different criminal, and you could literally cut the first short from this movie, and you wouldn't really notice. You would notice that this is 5 shorts, and that it's not really a movie-length movie, but you really wouldn't notice anything different if you cut that first short. All of the others are much more connected, and I could have gone either way on this. I could have gone with 6 shorts that are all really connected, but at the same time they're each done in a very different artistic style, or do 6 shorts that have absolutely nothing to do with each other, and it's just Batman fighting different criminals and stuff, and each one is done in an entirely different style. And they kind of try to go both ways. For example, one of the shorts, he fights Deadshot. In one of them, he fights Killer Croc, in Scarecrow in that same one, and then you've got a couple of them where he doesn't really fight a villain. The Mob is in this, the Russian, as well as not Falcone, but Maroni from The Dark Knight. He's in this. And once again, this movie demonstrates that it's really not very good at being set in the world of Batman Begins and The Dark Knight, because Maroni was played by, what's his face? I can't even remember his name. His name has completely left me. That one guy, Roberts, Eric Roberts. It didn't leave me. Maroni was played by Eric Roberts in The Dark Knight. Who is he here? I don't know. He's just some dude with a really weird mustache and really long hair down to his neck. He doesn't look at all like Eric Roberts, and allegedly it's supposed to be the same character. And then you've also got the Russian, who is also in The Dark Knight, and I guess he just doesn't have a name, because I'm pretty sure in The Dark Knight they never called him by name, they just called him the Russian, and then here they definitely don't call him by name, which is a little odd. I wouldn't mind if occasionally they call him the Russian. That kind of works like in the Punisher movie, and I'm assuming in the Punisher comics, where he's just a guy and he's really big and he's Russian, so they call him the Russian. But here, he's a known figure in the city, and he is a head honcho of the gang, so it kind of makes sense that he would need to have a name, but he doesn't, so whatever. Honestly, I don't have much else to say about this. I really wish that they could have made this not tied in with the Batman Begins Dark Knight movies. And I'm saying that it doesn't do a very good job of being tied in with those. For example, Kevin Conroy does not sound at all like Christian Bale, and the Maroni character does not look like Eric Roberts, stuff like that. It really isn't doing a very good job of being set in that world, but at the same time, the instances where it is very clearly set in that world, it is kind of it's trying to prevent this movie from being as good as it could be, I think is what I'm trying to say. I really like the Batman Begins and Dark Knight movies, at least those two movies, but I don't need a movie set in between those movies, especially when it kind of hogties the movie and prevents it from being all that it can be. If you could have gone back in time, if I could go back in time and tell the guys who are making this, hey, don't try to set it in that world, don't try to have it tied in with that world, just do a Batman movie that is 6 anime shorts that are all kind of connected, or maybe they're not connected, just anime shorts. That would have been fine, and I think it would have aged a lot better. As is, I have a feeling that I'm not the only one who hasn't seen this movie since it came out. I have a feeling that a lot of people watched it when it came out in preparation for The Dark Knight, and then after that they just discarded it and never watched it again. Unfortunately, because I went into this, a friend of mine recently, he did a review of it, and I went into this kind of thinking that maybe it wasn't as bad as I remembered it being, because my friend really enjoyed it a lot more than I did, and so I went into this thinking maybe it's not as bad as I remembered it being so long ago. Unfortunately, it's still, the fact that this movie is kind of sort of trying to be set in that world really drags it down a lot for me, and also there's some other problems, like just minor plot problems. For example, at one point Batman has been shot in the sewer, and then he finds like 10 guns that are just hanging out in the sewer. He puts all these guns in a box and takes them home. I don't really understand what those guns were doing in the sewer. And then you've also got stuff like Killer Croc is in this movie, and it's really hard for me to imagine that Killer Croc would exist in the Christopher Nolan, Christian Bale movies, but again, that's one of those things where this movie is kind of sort of trying to be set in that world and kind of sort of not. And then you've also got stuff like, at one point, Deadshot, he's been hired to kill Batman, and so he goes after Jim Gordon to lure Batman out. Somehow, the police find out that Jim Gordon is the target. I don't know how. It's never explained how they find that out. And then you've got like this one short where Batman is trying out this force field belt that is going to prevent him from being shot by guns. And he takes you. Apparently, you've got the Russian and you've got Maroni. They are both on separate boats that are both about the same size. And then Batman somehow is able to remote control one of them and literally ram it into the other one. I don't know why he does this, because literally, if you've got a whole bunch of gangsters on these two boats, and then Batman is trying to ram one of them into the other one, and he succeeds at doing that, it seems to me literally the only thing that could result from this is a giant gunfight, and that is almost what happens. But then Batman jumps down there, and he's like, whoa, 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 you guys aren't going to have any gunfight on my watch, and I'm just screaming at the TV almost saying, if you didn't want them to shoot at each other, why did you remote control the boat into this other one? And it's one of those things where I get the feeling they needed this short to kind of end quicker than it would have if Batman had just acted logically. We needed Batman to kind of do something really stupid and out of character to kind of get this short to end in the place that they needed it to end, and also end sooner than it would have. There's a lot of that going on. Like at one point, you got Crispus Allen and Ramirez, they've transported this guy to the Arkham Island, and then as they're coming back, Ramirez like stops the car in the middle of nowhere to yell at Crispus Allen for thinking about getting a transfer. And then this giant gang fight literally happens with their car right in the middle of it. When they see the gang starting to come in on both sides, they're like, oh no, we're going to need backup. And I'm thinking, or you could just drive, you could just like move forward a little bit, and then you're not going to be in the line of fire. And also, it was just really stupid that Ramirez had to stop the car to yell at her partner. She was yelling at him the whole time that they were in the car. I don't see why she had to stop the car other than for the sake of the plot. There is a lot of that going on in this movie. And again, part of why I don't like this movie is that it's trying so hard and at the same time not trying hard enough to be set in the Nolan Bale Batman movies. But at the same time, a lot of time the plot is just really lazy and the writing itself is really lazy. I would have to say the best thing about this movie is the art style itself. And even then, some of the shorts really fall short, and some of them are truly spectacular. I would say 2/3 of them are really awesome, and then 1/3 of them are very so-so. So ultimately, I didn't like this movie. I was really hoping that I would like it a lot more this time than I did the last time I watched it, but unfortunately, it just hasn't aged well, and I don't think I liked it any more than I did the last time. In fact, I would say I probably like it even less than I did the last time I watched it. So that's my thoughts on this movie. Unfortunately, I didn't like it, but maybe you guys did. If you did like it, let me know why you liked it in the comments below. Tell me what you liked about this movie. And I hope that you guys liked this review. If you did, be sure to like, share, comment, and subscribe. And I will be back later in the week on Saturday with another Batman video, another review of a Batman thing. And I might even try and do some more Batman stuff later in the week. This is the 75th anniversary of Batman this year, and a lot of people at the beginning of the year did a lot of like Batman celebratory videos. I didn't do anything like that. I probably won't do a full-on 75th anniversary celebration video, but I might try to read some more Batman books, do some more Batman videos before the year is out, just to kind of say, yeah, Batman is pretty cool. So maybe expect that in the next few months. I would like to try and get on to that. So that's all I had to say. I hope that you guys have a great rest of the day, and I will catch you later in the week. Have a good one.